Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Rice Public Radio. Bernie Sanders is officially running for president. Can't tell you how excited I am. In 2016, I was a big fan of his. I loved his policies, and I'm going to be supporting him again this year. It's time for progressive policies and leadership. Just going to rattle off a few stats for you to see, what type of crisis we're in the United States. We got 75% of people who live paycheck to paycheck. We have 40% of people who make $30,000 or less. 40% of people can't afford a $400 emergency. And ever since the 70s, the U.S. for workers, our wages have stagnated. Meanwhile, all this new income is going to the top 1%. We pay the highest amount per capita in healthcare, and we receive worse outcomes. You tell me how that's possible. Well, this system is freaking rigged against common Americans. And it's going to take big progressive policies with a bold vision in order to address them. Bernie Sanders has this. He wants to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, have a Medicare for all single-payer system, and the premise is healthcare is a human right. He wants to tackle climate change, criminal justice reform, fix our infrastructure, and take all those billions spent on ridiculous wars and use that money to fix our infrastructure, repair our roads, bridges, dams, and invest in our education and invest in jobs. So that's his plan. I'm wholeheartedly on board. What makes this year very favorable for him, I think? In 2016, he was running against a big-name candidate, Hillary Clinton. Obviously, everyone knew who Hillary Clinton was. No one knew who Bernie Sanders was. It made things difficult. And in addition to that, you obviously have the media being stacked against him. The party cheated him. But this year, I think it's a lot more... He's in a good position. People know him. People know his name. And if you look at the field of candidates, there's like 20-plus people running or something like that. Everyone's, has their hat in the ring, but Bernie has the name recognition. He has the bold policies. He's separated himself from the pack. If we look at the candidates, all these centrists and moderates like Amy Klobuchar, we got the Cory Booker, we got the Kamala Harris, we got all these candidates who just spit out platitudes. They say things like, unity, we need unity, we're against racist Trump, together we can do anything, I'm for equality and justice and all that. It's just, it's just buzzwords, but these moderates and these centrists, they don't have a bold vision, they don't have big policies that address the huge problems that we're facing today. I'm not sure if they just don't understand the gravity of the situation. I'm thinking it's more like they're beholden to their corporate donors, so they can't make these bold, progressive ideas. But Bernie isn't beholden to, corporate super PACs or whatever. He gets all his money from small donors. This year, the week that he announced, he signed over 1 million people for his campaign in 1 week. And he also fundraised $10 million in 1 week. He broke the record for the 24-hour. In 24 hours, he fundraised, I believe it was a little bit over $6 million. The previous record was set by Kamala Harris of this year, who got $1.5 million. And people thought that was a big deal. But Bernie Sanders absolutely blew her out of the water. So obviously he's got a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot of grassroots support for him. There's enthusiasm. And, check out those rallies that he had in like Chicago, Brooklyn, New Hampshire, and Iowa. People are lining up for like hours and miles just to watch him speak. He's packed the rooms. And it's absolutely astounding. Bernie also has the popularity. He's the most popular politician in the United States. He's actually a media smear against him was he doesn't do well amongst minority voters, but that's actually false, because if you look at all these polls, recent polls, he's doing amazingly well amongst minority voters. I think the last poll, it showed him that he had a 73% approval rating amongst African Americans or something like that. And that's even higher than like white voters. So minorities love him. So all this talk about, he doesn't do well with African Americans and all that, that's just a BS smear tactic. So, time will tell. We're still months away from Iowa. Hopefully he rides a wave and, gets into the presidency. I'm rooting for him. I think Trump's running, but if he faces off against Trump, I think he's going to smash Trump to pieces. He was already projected to beat Trump like 10+% in like every poll in 2016. So I think this year, I hope we're going to see that matchup. Sanders is just going to thump Donald Trump with policy. He's going to thump Donald Trump with big, bold, progressive ideas, and he's going to win. On the topic of Bernie Sanders, there's an issue that's popped up the last couple of weeks, and it's the issue of reparations. Now, the weird thing is, the issue of reparations didn't come up, when Obama, which obviously was a black man, was running against Hillary Clinton in the primaries. It didn't get brought up when he was facing Mitt Romney or John McCain, or even in 2016. Yeah, so I'm really surprised it's coming up this campaign season. I think a lot of people has been asked this question too, like, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, and now Bernie Sanders. And to be honest, the issue of reparations, I think, is definitely a very important issue, but I think it's been brought up in a disingenuous way. I'll explain a little bit. I think Bernie Sanders is being smeared regarding the issue of reparations because they're kind of taking it a little bit out of context or misframing it. He was asked if he supported reparations in a CNN town hall, and he was also asked if he supported reparations in an interview with Breakfast Club. Bernie Sanders correctly asked, what's their idea of reparations? Like, what is the person that's asking the question, what's their idea of reparations? Charlemagne the God on Breakfast Club asked, like, I'm paraphrasing. I don't exactly remember the words he said, but it was for, it was to address economic inequities suffered by Black Americans. And on the CNN town hall, he was asked if he supported reparations as well. So he didn't support giving individuals a check as a form of reparations. He supports addressing the structural issues we have in the United States, such as the lack of affordable healthcare, low wages, criminal justice reform, and stuff like that. So he wants to raise the minimum wage to living wage, guarantee healthcare as a human right, tackle cash bail, criminal justice reform, federal jobs guarantee, and so on and so forth. So he's being smeared that he just doesn't say, like, straight off the bat, like, oh, I support reparations, because I think Kamala Harris and Cory Booker said that they supported reparations, but the ideas they gave, they weren't straight up checks to, like, Black Americans either. I think Cory Booker supported something like baby bonds or something like that, which I think are like investment accounts for like that are started off for like when you're born or something like that. And Kamala Harris, I think she was touting her what was it called? It was some sort of a tax break for middle class families making like under $100,000 or something, where people sort of like a tax credit where you get like $6,000. So it's kind of like UBI almost. I mean, those aren't paychecks to like Blacks, but I think Bernie is getting kind of smeared the hardest about his questioning of reparations. I totally agree with Bernie, because I think, Blacks have been perhaps the most marginalized group in the United States. They have one of the biggest healthcare disparities, and in terms of economics, like home ownership, wages, educational attainment, they're pretty much at the bottom. So I think if you implement Bernie's ideas like tuition-free college, socialized healthcare, living wages, criminal justice reform, and bail reform, Blacks, who have been historically and currently perhaps the most marginalized group, they're going to benefit enormously from these changes. I believe that giving someone just a paycheck to address economic inequities is not enough. You have to solve the structural issues. You have to tackle them head on. And I think that's what Bernie Sanders' policies are doing. I agree with his stance on his reparations, and unfortunately, he's getting smeared on his stance. And lastly, I just want to talk about Ilhan Omar. Hopefully, I'm not butchering her name, but she's a congresswoman from Minnesota. You probably heard her on the news already, and I love this girl. She's kicking ass. Firstly, she calls out our U.S. the AIPAC, the Israel lobby, and their influence on American politics. She's getting smeared as an anti-Semite, but that's absolutely BS, because she'd never said anything about, the Jewish people or the religion or anything such as that. She said her quote all about the Benjamins. It's taken way out of the context. People were using it, saying like, "Oh, you're referring to anti-Semitic trope about how Jews own all the money and control everyone." But she didn't say that. She never said anything anti-Semitic. She was criticizing AIPAC. How come people get to criticize the NRA and the pharma lobby, and we don't say anything bad about those people, but as soon as you criticize AIPAC, people say you're an anti-Semitic, so on and so forth. But look at and she also criticized the Netanyahu Israeli government. I mean, you criticize a government, you're not criticizing the people, you're just criticizing the government, because in Israel they're treating the Palestinians like crap. They're moving, they're doing all these illegal resettlements that have been condemned by the UN, and the UN have been criticizing the Israeli reaction to Palestinian protests. Freaking Israeli security forces are killing kids, people, shooting protesters, and we're not condemning them. But when Ilhan Omar is condemning these actions, she's smeared as anti-Semite. It's absolute BS. There was even, I think it was in a Virginia state assembly building or something like that, some government building. Someone put out a freaking poster of comparing her to 9/11 terrorists. It was absolutely racist as hell, bigoted as hell. I think someone put up a poster. The top half of the poster is like the World Trade Center on fire, and it said something like, "Oh, we swore that we would never forget." And on the bottom of the poster, it was a picture of Ilhan Omar, and it said "This is the reason why we don't forget," or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the poster, but it was basically comparing the 9/11 attacks to Ilhan Omar, who was a Muslim lady. Friggin' Ilhan Omar had nothing to do with freaking 9/11 terrorist attacks. So this poster is absolutely bigoted. No one says anything. No one says that's anti-Muslim or anything. The Democrats aren't coming out and saying we're protecting our own congressman. They went out of their way to try to censor Ilhan Omar as an anti-Semite. It's just absolute BS. But another thing I love about Ilhan Omar, not only criticizing the AIPAC lobby and their influence on American politics, she was criticizing Barack Obama. There was an article on Politico or something like that where she called Barack Obama's political rhetoric as a mirage, that he was campaigning on progressive policies, and he actually didn't even, he just stuck to the status quo. That's absolutely right. Barack Obama talked a good game in the presidential campaigns and the primaries. He seemed like a populist. He campaigned, for socialized medicine, for a public option for choice. And look at Obamacare. Obamacare was originally conceived as a healthcare plan by the Heritage Foundation, a right-wing think tank. Obamacare was Romneycare. It's a right-wing idea, and he went right off the bat with that. He didn't even fight for a public option. He didn't fight for Medicare for all. So, and Barack Obama, he expanded these drone strikes in the Middle East. He didn't try to take us out of Afghanistan. I guess he ended the war in Iraq, but he didn't try to leave Afghanistan. We're still in Afghanistan. We overthrew Gaddafi in Libya, destabilized the region. Now there's freaking open air slave markets in Libya. And I think he started off the entire conflict in Syria. So obviously his Barack Obama foreign policy context is not very good. He didn't take on the Wall Street. He took the most campaign dollars from Wall Street. And when he didn't prosecute anyone for the financial crisis in 2008, no one went to jail, and that was the biggest economic disaster since the Great Depression. Yeah, I think Ilhan Omar is right. It was a mirage. Barack Obama obviously speaks very well. He's charismatic. He's very smart. But hey, yeah, he's very polished, but that's the dangerous part. When you have all these terrible policies and you can shine them up and make it look nice, then you can trick the American people. And I think that's what Barack Obama did. So keep on doing you, Ilhan Omar. Keep on speaking truth to power. All right, that was our episode of Rice Public Radio. Thanks for tuning in. Have an awesome day.